Most people fail not because they lack talent, intelligence, or opportunity. They fail because they let doubt whisper louder than discipline. The moment you believe your limitations, they become real. But what if you could silence that voice? What if you could rise with certainty, act without hesitation, and move with clarity? Then you wouldn't just chase success. You would become unshakable. The greatest wars are not fought on open fields or battlefronts. They are fought in silence, behind closed eyes, and within the mind. Before a person ever fails publicly, they've already lost 1,000 battles in private. It begins with a single thought: what if I'm not enough? That one idea, if left unchecked, multiplies. It spirals into hesitation, insecurity, and self-sabotage. The moment your mind entertains limitation as fact, your body responds with hesitation, and your potential folds in silence. The battlefield isn't out there in the world. It is here, between your ears. This is where victories are born or buried. You may believe you're fighting time, money, luck, or even other people, but none of those are your true opponent. Your opponent is the quiet voice that whispers, "Stop, you can't, you're not ready." That voice lives in your mind. It is not your enemy by nature, but it becomes one when you listen to it blindly. The mind is like a mirror. It reflects what you give it. Feed it fear, it returns doubt. Feed it strength, and it gives you resolve. But here's the truth: the mind doesn't care what you plant. It simply grows whatever you nourish. So the question is, what are you watering? Most people walk through life reacting to thoughts instead of observing them. They let every internal whisper become law, but not all thoughts are true. Not every belief is yours to carry. Some were planted by others by failure, by rejection, by childhood fears, or cultural programming. A powerful mind is not one that suppresses thoughts. It's one that watches them without judgment and decides which ones deserve to stay. You must learn to respond, not react. The ability to sit in the eye of mental storms and not be moved is the beginning of mastery. You don't control the wind, but you can anchor your sails. In this battlefield, awareness is your weapon. If you cannot see the enemy, you cannot fight. But when you become aware of the thought patterns that rise and the emotions they trigger, you gain the power to break cycles. Self-awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. The fear doesn't disappear immediately, but it loses power when it's seen clearly. Doubt thrives in shadows, but the moment you name it, the moment you say, "This is not truth, this is fear disguised as logic," its grip loosens. The war begins to turn in your favor. Training the body is noble, but training the mind is essential. What use is physical strength when your thoughts betray you? Many chase techniques, strategies, and shortcuts to success. But all of it crumbles without inner discipline. Mental strength is not the absence of negative thoughts. It's the ability to stay grounded when those thoughts arise. It's the choice to act, even when fear is screaming. And that choice can only be made by someone who has claimed sovereignty over their internal world. You don't fight thoughts with anger. You disarm them with presence. So, understand this: your success, your peace, your clarity, all of it depends on your ability to win in the mind first. When you wake up in the morning and choose to rise despite the inner noise, you are already winning. Every day the battle returns, doubt reloads, fear resurfaces, but so must you. Show up stronger, show up clearer. Show up grounded in truth, because the real world will test you not to break you, but to see if your internal foundation is solid. Only the ones who master the battlefield within can walk calmly through the storms outside. When most people encounter doubt, they retreat. They see it as a red light, a warning sign, something to avoid at all costs. But that mindset is a mistake. Doubt is not your enemy. It is your instructor. Its purpose is not to paralyze you, but to awaken you. When doubt shows up, it's not saying, "Stop." It's asking, are you sure? It's checking your foundation. If your reasons are weak, doubt will shake you. If your purpose is shallow, doubt will expose it. But if your commitment is deep, doubt becomes the weight that builds your mental strength. We tend to treat doubt like a defect, like something to fix or suppress. But think about it differently. Doubt is a form of inner intelligence. It's a voice that tests your readiness. It challenges your preparation, your clarity, your focus. In many ways, doubt is the mirror you must face before you enter any meaningful pursuit. The problem is not doubt itself, but how we respond to it. Some people allow doubt to define them, others allow it to refine them. That's the difference between a fearful life and a fulfilled one. Imagine a blacksmith forging a sword. The fire isn't the enemy of the blade, it is what strengthens the steel. Doubt is that fire. When it shows up, it's an opportunity to forge inner clarity, to reshape your beliefs, and to sharpen your vision. If you run from doubt, you remain dull and easily broken. But if you stand in the fire, ask questions, seek truth, and refine your understanding, you come out stronger. That's how warriors are made, not by avoiding fear, but by walking through it with open eyes. People often misunderstand confidence. They think it means never feeling uncertain. But real confidence comes from having faced doubt and learned from it. Confidence isn't built in silence, it's built in storms. When you've doubted your abilities, questioned your value, and still chosen to move forward, that's real strength. Confidence without ever facing doubt is not confidence, it's delusion. Confidence built through doubt is unshakable because it has been earned. Every time you feel unsure, pause and ask yourself, what is this doubt trying to teach me? Maybe it's telling you to prepare more. Maybe it's pointing out a blind spot. Maybe it's simply testing how badly you want this path. Doubt often appears right before transformation. Why? Because it is the final gatekeeper. Only those who can stand in uncertainty without losing themselves are ready for the next level. If you understand that, doubt becomes your ally, not your adversary. So when doubt comes, don't run, don't hide, sit with it, listen, examine its message, then move not in fear, but in clarity. Doubt will always be there, but you don't have to obey it. You have to learn from it. Because once you realize doubt is just a teacher and you are the student, you'll stop seeing it as something to defeat and start seeing it as something that builds your mental discipline. And the one who learns from doubt will always rise, not despite uncertainty, but because of it. Everyone wants success. Many have ideas, dreams, and goals, but few ever reach them. Why? It's not because of a lack of vision. It's because they stop walking the bridge. Between every thought and every triumph lies one road: discipline. Not motivation, not excitement. Discipline. It's the ability to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like doing it. It's the invisible thread that connects your present actions to your future results. Thoughts may start the journey, but only discipline finishes it. Motivation is like the wind, it comes and goes, and it can change direction without warning. If you build your habits around motivation, you become a slave to your emotions. You'll only move when you feel inspired, and that moment rarely lasts. But discipline is different. Discipline doesn't care about how you feel. It cares about who you've committed to becoming. It shows up rain or shine. It gets up when it's tired. It repeats the same action until excellence becomes inevitable. If motivation gets you started, discipline keeps you moving. There is a great misconception that discipline is painful, a life of restriction and force. But the truth is the opposite. Discipline is freedom. It frees you from regret, from wasted time, from mediocrity. Without discipline, you drift. You lose time scrolling, procrastinating, making excuses, and overthinking. But with discipline, you gain time, you build structure, you create peace through order, and most importantly, you build trust with yourself. Because every time you keep a promise to yourself, you remind your mind, I am in control. You must become the kind of person who shows up even when no one's watching. Discipline is formed in the quiet hours, in the early morning when it's easier to sleep, in the late night when distraction calls. In those tiny moments where you choose action over comfort, that's where greatness is built. The world sees the results, but it never sees the repetitions, the self-denial, the constant realignment. Discipline doesn't shout, it whispers, and only the focused hear it. There will be days when your mind screams for rest, when your body aches, and when your spirit feels dull. That's when discipline is tested and refined. Discipline is not about pushing blindly. It's about knowing the difference between resistance and true fatigue. Most of the time, what we call exhaustion is simply the weight of inner resistance, and the only way to overcome that resistance is to act. One step, one rep, one word. Momentum is built when discipline overrides emotion. So, ask yourself this: can you act without waiting to feel ready? Can you move without needing permission from motivation? That's what builds the unshakable, because when others quit, the disciplined remain, not because they never struggle, but because they've trained their mind to obey purpose, not preference. Every act of discipline is a vote for your future self. Every repetition is a brick in the bridge between thought and triumph. Build that bridge step by step, and soon, what once felt distant will become the ground beneath your feet. Most people wait for clarity before they move. They believe the perfect moment will arrive. They search for signs, for certainty, for some divine confirmation that they're on the right path. So they sit, and they think, and they plan, but days pass, then weeks, then years, and still no clarity. What they don't realize is that clarity doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. Just like you can't learn how to swim by reading about water, you can't understand your path until you walk it. Thinking prepares you, but action reveals you. Overthinking is seductive. It makes you feel productive without producing anything. You loop ideas, rehearse failure, predict rejection, and simulate outcomes. But none of that moves you forward. It only drowns you in imagined fears. Thought without movement becomes noise. Eventually, your own mind becomes the obstacle. What begins as reflection turns into paralysis. What starts as preparation ends in postponement. You don't lack clarity, you lack movement, and in stillness, confusion multiplies. You see, when you take action, even imperfect action, something shifts. A fog that once clouded your judgment begins to lift. Each step you take gives you feedback. You learn what works, what doesn't, what needs refining, and more importantly, you begin to see yourself. You discover your strengths, your limits, and your capacity. That kind of clarity cannot be found in books or journals or conversations. It is only found in the experience of doing. In movement, the mind sharpens. In stillness, it doubts. Clarity is not a lightning strike. It's a slow sunrise. With every action, more is revealed. And yes, you will make mistakes. You'll choose wrong turns, face failure, and feel unsure. But that, too, is clarity, because now you know what doesn't work. Now you know how to pivot. Action doesn't eliminate failure, it redefines it. Failure becomes information. Confusion becomes curiosity. What once seemed terrifying now becomes a teacher. But none of that is possible if you don't move. Understand this deeply. The path becomes clear when you start walking, not before. No one who built anything lasting waited for perfect conditions. The mountain doesn't move for the climber. The climber moves, and the mountain reveals its steps one by one. The same is true for your dreams, your purpose, your next chapter. You won't have all the answers, but you don't need them. You only need to begin. Take the first step, however small. Let that step create the next one, and the one after that. So stop asking for guarantees. Stop demanding certainty before movement. Start choosing courage over control. You'll never know what's waiting for you until you arrive. And you'll never arrive unless you start walking. Trust that action will shape the path ahead. Trust that motion will dissolve the fog, because clarity, the kind you're truly seeking, doesn't live in the mind. It lives in the moment when thought becomes movement and intention becomes reality. In a world obsessed with raw talent and quick wins, consistency remains the quiet champion, unnoticed, underestimated, and undefeated. Many people admire those born with gifts. They watch from afar and think, if only I had that skill, that intelligence, that advantage. But talent without discipline is a wasted gift. Talent without consistency is an unopened letter. The truth is, the people who succeed are not always the most gifted. They are the ones who show up day after day, especially when no one else does. Consistency is the great equalizer. You don't need to be the fastest, the strongest, or the smartest. You just need to keep showing up. Brick by brick, repetition builds reputation. Small actions, when done daily, transform into greatness over time. The problem is, most people look for intensity. They want big changes, fast results, dramatic breakthroughs. But what they fail to realize is that intensity fades and consistency remains. Intensity makes a splash. Consistency creates waves. Think of water, soft, quiet, and gentle, yet given time, it can carve through rock. That's what consistency does. It doesn't force its way through, it wears down resistance with presence. You may not see results today or tomorrow, but every act of repetition is working silently, invisibly, powerfully. Success doesn't come to the most passionate, it comes to the most committed. Passion may ignite the journey, but consistency sustains it. That's how progress is built, one boring, disciplined, uncelebrated day at a time. Many quit not because they're incapable, but because they grow impatient. They mistake slow progress for failure. They look at others' highlight reels and forget that greatness is always built behind the scenes. There are no shortcuts, there are no secrets, just effort stacked daily, one rep, one page, one step, one more hour when no one's watching. That's the difference between those who wish and those who achieve. The results may take time, but time rewards those who remain. Consistency also builds confidence. Every time you do what you said you would do, you strengthen your self-trust. You no longer rely on motivation because you've built identity. You become the kind of person who doesn't need to feel ready, you just move. You show up regardless of mood, regardless of obstacles. You no longer negotiate with excuses. That kind of consistency, quiet, humble, steady, is far more powerful than talent wrapped in laziness. The world doesn't reward potential. It rewards execution. So stop waiting to feel inspired. Stop comparing your day 1 to someone else's day 1,000. Choose to be consistent in silence, in simplicity, and in struggle. You may not see the reward immediately, but trust this. Every drop counts. Every effort compounds. And when talent slows down, when others burn out, when distractions rise, it is your consistency that will carry you across the finish line. Because in the end, success doesn't go to those who start strong. It goes to those who never stop walking. The obsession with outcomes has ruined more dreams than failure ever will. In a results-driven world, we're trained to measure everything: our success, our worth, even our happiness by what we achieve. But that fixation becomes a trap. When you focus too much on the outcome, you live in the future. You attach your value to a moment that hasn't happened yet, and in doing so, you miss the one thing that truly matters, the process unfolding right now. The process is where the growth happens. The process is where your character is built. Many people give up not because the goal was too far, but because the results didn't come fast enough. They start something, a new habit, a business, a practice, and they expect instant validation. When it doesn't arrive, they question everything, but the process doesn't reward impatience. It rewards trust. When you let go of needing a certain outcome, you free yourself to engage fully with the task. You no longer act to get something, you act because this is who you are becoming. That shift in mindset changes everything. There is a quiet power in detachment. It doesn't mean you don't care about the result. It means you don't need it to validate your effort. You move with purpose, not pressure. You focus on what you can control, showing up, doing the work, refining the craft. Outcomes are unpredictable. They depend on timing, environment, and variables beyond your reach. But the process, that's yours, that belongs to you. Master the process, and the outcome takes care of itself. Or more accurately, it becomes irrelevant because who you've become matters more than what you've achieved. Letting go of outcomes also frees you from fear. Most fear is rooted in the future. What if I fail? What if it doesn't work? What if I'm not good enough? These questions don't arise when you're immersed in the now. When your mind is fully engaged in the moment, fear has no ground to stand on. Flow replaces doubt. Precision replaces hesitation. You're no longer trying to perform, you're simply expressing. The musician becomes the music. The athlete becomes the movement. The creator becomes the creation. That's the beauty of full presence. We live in a culture that praises results and overlooks effort, but don't be fooled. The people who reach greatness are those who learn to love the grind. They find satisfaction in the repetition, in the ritual, in the smallest details. They don't need praise because they find purpose in the work itself. And that's the paradox. When you stop chasing success and start focusing on excellence in the process, success quietly follows. Not because you forced it, but because you earned it through consistency and care. So let go, not of your goals, but of your attachment to them. Focus your energy where it matters, on the present task, on the next breath, on the movement in front of you. Mastery is found not in the finish line, but in the steps that get you there. Do not run for applause. Do not move for validation. Do it because it aligns with your truth. Do it because this path, this process, is making you stronger, calmer, sharper. The outcome may come, or it may not, but what you gain through the process, that is yours to keep forever. In a world that never stops talking, silence has become rare and sacred. We are constantly surrounded by noise. Notifications, conversations, headlines, opinions, and mental chatter. Even when the world is quiet, our minds keep racing. We replay the past, predict the future, and rehearse imaginary scenarios. But in all that noise, we lose something vital, the ability to hear the truth within ourselves. Truth doesn't scream, it whispers, and you can only hear it when everything else becomes still. Silence isn't just the absence of sound, it's the presence of awareness. It's a return to yourself. In silence, there is no mask to wear, no role to play, no audience to impress. Just you and what truly lives inside of you. It's in that space where clarity arises, where the fog lifts, and you can see what really matters. But most people avoid silence, not because they dislike it, but because they fear what it might reveal. In silence, you can't run from your truth, and that can be uncomfortable, but it's also the beginning of healing and self-mastery. To develop inner strength, you must first become familiar with inner stillness. That means intentionally creating space to step away from the chaos, not just externally, but internally. No phone, no music, no distractions, just breathe, just presence, just observation. When you sit in silence, thoughts will arise. Emotions will surface. Doubts, fears, and desires will knock at the door. Don't resist them. Don't attach to them. Just watch. Just witness. This is not passivity, it is awareness, and awareness is where transformation begins. When you cultivate silence, you develop a relationship with your true self, not the one conditioned by society, pressure, or fear, but the one that has always been quietly waiting beneath the surface. That version of you doesn't chase validation, it doesn't need approval, it already knows, but to hear that wisdom, you must first silence the voices that aren't yours. The more time you spend in stillness, the more you learn to trust your intuition, your inner compass. You begin to act not out of reactivity, but out of knowing. Many of the answers we chase in the world through books, people, or achievement are already within us. We're just too distracted to hear them. Meditation, deep breathing, mindful walking, sitting in nature, even closing your eyes for 2 minutes during a chaotic day, these are gateways into the sacred silence where truth lives. This is not a spiritual cliché. It is a practical strategy. When your outer world is loud, your inner world must become louder, not with words, but with presence. The most powerful actions come from quiet minds, so seek silence daily. Let it be your teacher, your mirror, your reset button. Let silence show you what noise tries to hide. The more you practice stillness, the more unshakable you become. In the stillness, you find truth. In the truth, you find clarity, and with clarity, every step you take becomes deliberate, powerful, and aligned. The world may still be noisy, but inside, you are grounded, and from that grounded place, no distraction, no doubt, no chaos can shake you. Let me know when you're ready for Key Point 8. Failure is a mirror, not a wall. Or if you'd like this compiled into a narration, ready voiceover script, video presentation, or motivational ebook, I can format it for that as well. Failure is often misunderstood. People see it as the end, a final verdict on their worth or their potential. But failure is not a wall unless you choose to stop. In reality, failure is a mirror, one that reflects what still needs refining, sharpening, and evolving. It doesn't block your path. It redirects your awareness. It reveals weaknesses you couldn't see while winning. If you're humble enough to look into that mirror instead of turning away, you'll discover that failure holds the exact feedback you need for your next breakthrough. The strongest minds are not built from constant success, they're built through falling, reflecting, and rising again. Think of a blade. It's not forged in comfort. It's formed in fire, shaped through strikes, refined in friction. Failure is the fire. It's painful, yes, but it burns away what's weak and leaves behind what's strong. The difference between those who rise and those who quit is not talent or luck, it's how they interpret failure. One sees rejection, the other sees redirection. Most people avoid failure because they believe it says something about who they are. But failure doesn't define identity. It reveals habits, decisions, and blind spots. It shows you what isn't working, not who you are. The ego takes failure personally, but the disciplined mind sees it as data. Nothing more, nothing less. To grow, you must learn to take feedback without flinching. Let failure teach you, but never let it own you. You are not your mistakes. You are who you become after learning from them. Every successful person has scars, moments when everything collapsed, when doors slammed shut, when doubt flooded in. But instead of running, they paused and studied the wreckage. They asked, what can I learn here? What did this reveal about me? They treated failure as a mirror. Sometimes the reflection was ugly impatience, pride, fear. But facing it helped them evolve. If you're brave enough to look, failure will not break you. It will build you. There's a Japanese art called kintsugi, repairing broken pottery with gold. The cracks aren't hidden. They're highlighted. The object becomes more beautiful because of its damage, not despite it. That's what failure does. It doesn't make you less, it makes you more experienced, more resilient, more real. When you embrace your broken moments, when you stop hiding your losses and start learning from them, you become whole in a way that perfection never could create. So next time you fall, don't look away. Look directly at it. Examine the mirror, ask yourself, what did I miss? What must I change? What is this moment here to teach me? The answers are rarely loud, but they are always honest, and in that honesty you will grow. Failure is not the end, it's not a dead-end street. It's a reflection one that sharpens your focus, humbles your ego, and prepares you for what's next. Look into the mirror, then move forward, stronger than before. Everyone has goals, big dreams, lofty ambitions. We write them down, visualize them, even speak them into existence. But when pressure hits, when reality tests you, you don't rise to meet your dream. You fall, and where you fall is revealing. You fall to the level of your training, your habits, your preparation. What you've practiced daily is what shows up under pressure, not the vision board, not the Instagram quote, not the speech, but the work you've repeated when no one was watching. You can't fake readiness. You either did the work or you didn't. And when life tests you, it won't ask what your intentions were, it will expose what you've internalized. The body will default to its training, the mind will seek its patterns. When you're tired, frustrated, afraid, you won't remember your goals, you'll remember your routines, and if those routines are built on discipline, repetition, and mental clarity, you will not break. But if they are built on hope alone, you will crumble the moment conditions become unfavorable. Think of a soldier. On the battlefield, there's no time to think through every move. Every reaction is based on muscle memory. On drilled patterns, on mental toughness sharpened through repetition. Training is what allows action to happen without panic. It's what transforms fear into focus. If you want to be calm under pressure, train under pressure. If you want to be strong in chaos, train in chaos. You don't suddenly become excellent when it matters. You become excellent because you trained for that moment long before it arrived. Most people overestimate what they'll do in the moment and underestimate how much work the moment will demand. They set ambitious goals to perform, to speak, to lead, to succeed, and then expect their adrenaline to carry them through. But adrenaline fades, hype collapses, only preparation remains, and that preparation isn't built in a single night. It's built in the early mornings, the late nights, the mundane drills, the practice sessions repeated with intention long before anyone else believed in you. Training is not about perfection, it's about repetition with presence. Every rep is a deposit. Every focused session is a brick. Over time, these stack into an identity, someone who doesn't flinch, someone who doesn't fold, someone who moves forward even when the path gets dark. You don't have to train to be the best, but you must train to be ready for the challenges you cannot predict. And the truth is, life won't wait for you to get ready. You must already be in motion when the test arrives. So stop waiting for motivation to strike. Stop relying on potential. Build systems, create habits, embrace the grind, because when your goals become heavy, when the pressure arrives uninvited, you will fall. Not to your dreams, not to your wishes, but to your training. And if that training is deep, disciplined, and deliberate, you won't fall far. You'll land on a foundation strong enough to carry you forward. That's how you become unshakable. That's how you meet life prepared. The world doesn't slow down. It spins faster every day, more demands, more distractions, more pressure. Chaos isn't the exception, it's the environment. And while most people get swept up in it, a few remain still, focused, unshaken. These are the ones who have trained their minds to move slower than the storm around them. They don't panic. They don't react. They respond with clarity, with intention. They've learned the ultimate skill, how to become the calm in the chaos. When things fall apart, when plans fail, people disappoint, and uncertainty strikes, most react from emotion. They shout, scramble, blame, or freeze, but emotion is a poor guide in the midst of turbulence. To lead, to endure, to execute, you must slow your breath when the world speeds up. You must anchor yourself when others drift. Inner calm isn't denial, it's control. Control of your thoughts, your reactions, your state. It's not about avoiding chaos. It's about moving through it without losing yourself. Stillness is power, not the power that comes from control over others, but control over self. The kind of power that allows you to pause before you speak, breathe before you act, reflect before you decide. In the stillness, you gain perspective. You see patterns others miss. You act from clarity, not impulse. While the world runs in circles, you walk a straight path. This is not a mystical idea, it's a mental discipline, trained like a muscle, strengthened through repetition, chosen in every chaotic moment. Chaos is not your enemy. In fact, it is your proving ground. Anyone can remain calm when life is easy, but it's in the storms, the deadlines, the criticism, the betrayal, the fear that your real training shows. Can you stay composed when everything around you demands a reaction? Can you maintain inner order in the midst of outer disorder? That's what separates the grounded from the reactive. Not what happens to them, but how they carry themselves through what happens. To become the calm, you must practice quiet, breathe deeply, observe often, respond rarely. You must learn to detach from the noise without disconnecting from reality. The calm person doesn't ignore the chaos, they simply don't let it enter them. Like a mountain untouched by the wind, like the eye of a hurricane, still, centered, unmoved. This state isn't given. It's built through meditation, through struggle, through presence, through choosing stillness even when everything screams for reaction. So when the pressure rises, don't mirror it. Slow down, center yourself. Be the one who holds steady when others collapse. Because when you become the calm in the chaos, you do more than survive, you lead. You inspire, you shift energy, you walk through the fire without letting it burn you. And in doing so, you become something rare, something powerful, not just successful, but unshakable. So now you know success isn't just about doing more, working harder, or chasing louder goals. It's about learning to master the invisible, your doubt, your discipline, your silence, your reactions, your inner world. You've walked through 10 keys, each one a step away from uncertainty and a step toward unshakable strength. Not through shortcuts, not through tricks, but through alignment, through the ancient, quiet wisdom of action, repetition, and stillness. Understand this: unshakable success is not a finish line, it's a way of walking through the world. Calm in chaos, focused under pressure, grounded in truth. So now the choice is yours. You can keep waiting, hoping, wishing, or you can remove the doubt, embrace the process, and win not once, but every time life tests you. And when that next test comes, don't rise to the moment. Fall back into your training, fall back into your silence, fall back into who you've chosen to become. Because now you don't just know the secret. You are the secret, unshakable.